Alright, so this tutorial is going to be a beginner lesson on using Adobe Illustrator, and we're going to look at how to make a fire truck. So we're going to use mostly just some of the basic features, blending shapes, combining shapes, using the Pathfinder to remove some things, but a pretty easy tutorial for how to make a basic flat shape fire truck. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to use our rectangle tool. So select your rectangle tool, and we're just going to make a rectangle in the center of our page. This is going to be the main body of our fire truck, but then we're going to add some pieces, take some things away, to sort of cut that into the shape for our truck. So we're going to select, let's move this over just a little bit, and then let's add another rectangle about probably a third of the size of the other one. And so now we've got our rectangle, and closer to a square. It does not have to be a perfect square, but closer to a square that will be there for our truck. Then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start cutting into our shape to give it some of our features for our truck. So I'm going to start out with the tires. So use an ellipse tool, and the first thing we're going to do is we are going to draw a circle. And then now that we have our circle, I'm going to go ahead and copy it, so just Control-C, and paste a couple additional circles just that we have for references, so that we can get them the same size and make them match pretty easily. So we're going to then take our circle and we're going to place it towards the back, and we're actually going to give it 2 tires here in the back. Then what we're going to do is I'm going to select the larger rectangle and the smaller 2 circles. You can see that they're overlapping. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my Pathfinder tool, so it's Window and then Pathfinder, and I'm going to minus front. Then when I click that, you can see what it does, and it gives you the little indicator here, is it cuts the 2 that are going to be my wheel wells out of it. Then I'm going to take my third one, actually I'm going to go ahead and copy it one more time so we can use one for the front. And get it lined up there. We'll do the same for our cab, and then we'll put another tire right here. Select the tools. Oops. So my issue was there, where I made the mistake, was that the circle was actually behind the larger section that's going to be to our truck, and so it was actually, when I minused the front, it was actually taking away the top layer instead of taking the layer that I wanted to. So to adjust for that, I just changed the color of the circle so that then we could tell for sure which one was on top. Now if we select all of it, we can remove that. So now we have our basic fire truck. We've got our start to our cab, and we've got our wheel wells cut out. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to paste where I already had the circle copied, and then if I place a circle there, I'm going to make it a little bit smaller, but I want to keep the same dimension, so I'm going to hold Shift and make our tire a little bit smaller. And then with our guidelines, we should be able to line it up pretty close to the center there. It does not have to be perfect. Let's see, I'm just trying to get it balanced in the middle. We'll zoom in a little bit, which will allow you to have a little bit more precision. That's good enough. And then I'm going to copy that circle, paste it, make it a little bit smaller but keep the same dimensions, which for this one's easy because it's just a perfect circle. Center it in the middle, and then use that same tool again. Selecting just those 2, I'm going to minus the front, and then that cuts out our wheel. Now that I have this shape, copy it, paste, and then now I can just drag my wheel into each one. Let me zoom back out here. Paste it again. Paste it one more time. Alright, and now we have all of our wheels. Just minimize our Pathfinder there until we need it later, because we will be using it again. Alright, so now what we're going to do is work on some of the iconic parts to a fire engine. So some things that we would definitely want to have. So I'm going to actually cut down this shape a little bit more and make another square and cut that section out. Don't worry about it having to line up perfectly, because when we remove those extra sections, it's just cutting it down a little bit. I'm also going to cut this part. Any of the overlap is going to be removed, as a result of using the Pathfinder and removing the front portion. So that's just giving us a little bit of a shape here to give us some concept of building some of the areas into the fire truck. And so now one of the most iconic parts to a fire engine is that we need to have our ladder. So I'm going to start out with just a square for my ladder. So what we will do here is I'm going to make a long rectangle and then a smaller square. Then line that up. Let's see. Sometimes it can be tricky. There we go. That's all I was trying to do, but you can see that sometimes that mixes up. I'm going to place it over the top. And let's go ahead and change the color on this one just to make it a little bit easier to see so we can tell which part we have. I'm going to just make it black for now. We will change the colors later. I'm going to copy this square. What I'm doing just to undo these, if you're not familiar with Illustrator, Control Z is undo, and I'm using Control C to copy, Control V to paste, which is definitely an easier way because I make lots of mistakes, and so this helps me out a lot so that I can try things, undo it, redo it easily, and I'm just pasting it each time to get another square. And then I'm really just putting together my ladder for my fire engine. And so now once I have all of my smaller squares, I will then select all of them, use that same tool that we've used over and over again, and make the cut. So now I've got my ladder on top of my engine, the main body to my engine, our square for the top, and then we're going to add some more features to it. Right now it's pretty boxy. We're going to add some more features to that. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add a window. So create a square. It doesn't have to, I'm saying square, it doesn't have to be a perfect square. In fact, it's probably a little bit better if it's not a perfect square. It gives it more of a realistic look. We'll place our first square right there, which is again going to be cut out. And so let's go ahead and cut that out. Then I want to give a little bit of an angle to our fire truck. So I'm going to take this larger rectangle, rotate it and turn it at an angle, and I'm actually going to cut the front end off of it like that. And then to give it a good look, we are going to create what looks like our windshield, but I want it to be cut out at the same angle as my windshield. So create another square, rotate it. I'm going to actually drag it up here to measure to see if it's at the right angle, rotate it until it's roughly parallel with the line that I made for my windshield, rotate it a little bit more. It's not perfect, but it is close. So we will put that, and again, I'm just cutting it out. Most of the shapes that I make that I use for these, I just cut them out, and by using that minus front feature, it is an easy option to use, allows you to make a lot of customization that you're cutting. So there, now we've got our windows for the front of our truck. Now I'm going to add some other things to that. I'm going to change my tool, and this time use a rounded rectangle tool to be our siren on top. So I will size that to where it's roughly the right size, and then I'm going to connect them using a regular rectangle. Roughly centered. And then I'm going to, this time, instead of using the minus, I'm going to merge them. So now that's all one shape. I just rotated that slightly. There we go. To look like our sirens. Now, we got this hard end and a box feel to that, so I'm going to go back to my rounded rectangle, create what's going to be the front of our engine. Line that up there. And then let's give it a little bit of a fender. Place that down towards the bottom. Alright, there we go. That's going to be the main look to the front of our engine. Then let's also copy this piece and give it a back fender that then matches the front of our engine. There we go. So now I'm going to take all of these sections, click the merge option, which just made them all one shape. I did not include the ladder in that shape because we may want to move it around some. Also, I didn't want to mess with the color or anything else right now. So right now the ladder is the only piece that's separate, but actually the wheels are tied to every other part. They're all still considered one shape, even though they don't touch and there's different parts to them. Now what we're going to do is add some color. I could have done this before I merged the shapes. You can do it either way though, and so I'll actually show you the other tool for that. So I've already merged the shapes, so I'm going to click, and then let's change it to red. And then even though I've merged the shapes, I can actually go in an isolation mode to where I can see each individual. I can change our tires to black. Just doing that for each one, changing the tire color to black. Give it a little bit more accents. And let's actually change our ladder. The wrong thing selected. Make sure I've got my ladder selected. We'll change it to a gray. Change this tire back to black. Then I'm just going to go in and add some accent marks. Just make a long rectangle. Place that in here. Let's make it white. And then we're going to go in and add some text. We're going to make it the number 1 engine. Let's go in and change our font. Let's see. That looks good. Kind of a classic fire engine look. One thing I do like to do when I use text, once I've got the text the way that I want it, is go into the type and create an outline for it. That allows you to resize it without actually changing the font size. So this is actually now a shape, not letters. This is also useful if you are using any kind of a system to cut out your letters, like a Cricut or Silhouette or other thing that needs a DXF file. You can actually cut these letters out easily. Just a side note there. Let's put number 1 engine there in the center. And then that is our fire engine. So just a basic flat fire engine. I hope you had fun. Try it out. See how you might make. There are a lot of different options that you could use to vary it. The last thing I'll do, I will just group all of our parts. So Control G. And then now I could resize my engine, change it, move it around. And there you go. We have a flat fire engine. So thanks for watching.